Hey, what's up, everybody? This is KG from Jaw 7. Welcome to a brand new episode. In today's episode, I have two wonderful gentlemen here today from the RGV for Pokemon TCG, and they were happy enough to come on board and get an interview from me. And we have Leonardo Rios and Daniel Casas. Daniel Casas from Brownsville, Texas, and we have Leonardo Rios from Mission, Texas. And these two gentlemen went to NAIC a couple weeks ago in New Orleans for Pokemon TCG International Championships, and both these gentlemen grinded it out and did really well on the performances to make day 2 at the Pokemon TCG. And let me tell you something, it is not easy to do that accomplishment. In fact, I believe over 2,000 players have went to this competition, probably more. And to make day 2 is quite an honor to do that. So I'm very fortunate to have these two gentlemen here today. They're here today to talk about their deck list, their matchups, and their thought process as far as what they did to prepare for this tournament. So I'm going to go ahead and let these two gentlemen say hello. We'll start with Leo. Leo, go ahead and say hello out there to the Pokemon TCG world and the RGB community.
Hello guys, this is Leo. Been playing Pokemon for a bit. So you guys that are hearing this probably already know that. They call me Mr. Lugia. But yeah, I'm here.
Yes, and Sasad has been, Leo has been in our podcast before. Sasad too, but Leo's been on the podcast before for interviews. And then we have also Daniel Casas here from Brownsville, Texas. Daniel, go ahead and say hello to the Pokemon community and RGV.
Hello there. Yeah, I'm Daniel Casas. Thank you for having me here, Kevin, and with Leo as well. I've been playing for, just recently this year, so it was great to have made it to NIC, especially day 2, and I'll be talking to you about that today.
Yeah, awesome. And we're glad to have these two gentlemen here with us. And it's cool that we have both of you on here at the same time. I was kind of worried that maybe, we're so busy. I know Leo's doing the barbershop thing and Daniel is working. So it's pretty cool that we have these two gentlemen here today to give us their time, their thought process, and pretty much why they selected the decks and their 60 card decks. Again, in Pokemon TCG or any card game, it's always about finding the best 60 cards or 50 cards, whatever you're playing. But in Pokemon, you definitely want to find the best 60 cards. And these two wonderful gentlemen did it, and they made day 2, and that's quite an accomplishment for an IC. Regionals, it's cool to make day 2. I know, Leo, did you go to San Antonio? You did, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and Daniel, did you have a chance to go to San Antonio this past year? No, you didn't, right? Or
No. I was still pretty new and did not have a chance to.
Okay, cool. Understandable. Great. So, with these two gentlemen here today, we're going to go ahead and talk about their deck lists and then their thought process behind their 60 card selection. And then we'll kind of talk about day 1, just to summarize, because I know everyone wants to hear their day 2 experience and their overall experience going to Louisiana for the North American International Championship for Pokemon TCG. So before we do that, and before we get into the deck list, we'll start with Leo. Leo, just tell us overall your experience at the North American International Championships, and tell us what you liked, what you enjoyed, and just pretty much overall, how did you enjoy the trip?
Yeah, it was a good experience. It was different from regionals just because this is like the first year that I really just kind of traveled or was able to travel. Mm-hmm. So going to regionals in San Antonio was pretty it was cool, but this international was way bigger. It was the whole venue and everything was great, and then especially going with all the guys. We were 11 or 10 guys driving over there. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty exciting, and I was really confident with my deck choice, and I knew there was going to be a lot of techs for it, tech against it, and I was still confident playing it. I wasn't going to switch into something I wasn't comfortable.
Awesome. So you went with the boys from the pocket, right? Pretty much with Leo and all them, Salinas and the crew, Puff and all them, right?
Yes. Yeah. We ended up, all of us, going that way. We rented 2 vans and we ended up driving over there. And we stayed together. We practiced together. Even 2 of the guys that were staying with me, Ray and Caesar, were running the same list. We just had a 1 card difference, and I was the only one running the 1 card difference because they were both running the double. I believe it was a jamming tower, and right. I was running the one jamming tower, 1 Mezza Goza. So that was basically the difference from like all three of us in the list.
Wow. If I had to take a guess, I mean, we're kind of jumping into the deck list, but you made me guess Thornton. Like I thought they were anti-Thornton, but they actually like Thornton. Believe it or not, both of them like Thornton.
Yeah, I mean, it got to a point where like I was pushing them to kind of like not really pushing them, but they have seen how much success I've gotten with that supporter and the deck, and how good, like how valuable it is in some occasions. Because of course, most of the time you're not using it like the right way, or you're not really thinking about using it the right way.
Mhm.
But a couple weeks before we went to New Orleans, I started kind of like, not showing them, because they didn't need to for me to show them or teach them anything, because they know already so much, like Ray and Caesar.
Mhm.
But I just kind of like giving them ideas of what they could do with Thornton, and I believe Caesar, the last couple of days of before we left, he kind of like saw the value of like just having Thornton still in the deck,
Mhm.
and yeah, they both decided to play it in their deck, and I just hope that in some of the matches it helped them. Like it was a really amazing card in the whole tournament. But if I wanted it, it's my favorite card. But if I have to give it to that tournament, it was probably going to be that Roxanne backup. That support helped me a lot in that tournament.
Oh, Rosanna's backup, pretty much.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, just to get that legacy back, get my jamming tower back, or if I needed to get Encino, anything back, Blood Moon, whatever, super good card.
Yeah, cool, man. And then, so now we're going to shift it to Daniel. Daniel, go ahead and tell us your experience at New Orleans and North American International Champion overall.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I pretty much drove over there with my dad.
Okay.
Let's say the day before, right? So I kind of had to wait for someone to get out of work, right, to join us. My dad's girlfriend, and we kind of took off around 3ish, maybe around 3ish. So because of that, I also made it over there to New Orleans around 2 a.m. So I really only had 6 hours to relax, maybe
Wow.
5, after getting into the hotel and setting up and all. I was pretty kind of worried about that, but I was more focused on just being there and not falling asleep, right?
Right.
But luckily, I did not even think of sleeping during the actual tournament. I had to wake up early to get my badge, get my items, get that special nest ball. Really love that card. So then I pretty much just waited there, met up with a few people from Cascade, right? Shout out to those guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Cascade.
For real. Ozzy, Jesus, and Jose. Appreciate them being there with us, all together. It wasn't only just you guys from the pocket and McAllen Mission Area. It was pretty much us as a collective being there. And a few others too.
Yeah, what's so cool about you two is that, first of all, neither of these two gentlemen, Pokemon community, flew up there. And they went two different paths. These are from two different play groups, pretty much. I mean, Daniel's from Brownsville, right? And then Leo's from, from the Pocket and Mission. So it's pretty cool that both, one from the East and one from the West, went up there, and you both did well. So that's pretty cool to see that. I know Leo mentioned it earlier when we were kind of brainstorming, and it's cool to get it from a different perspective. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And so it's awesome to hear that. So thank you, gentlemen, for giving us your pretty much your insight of your travels over there. And yeah, I mean, the swag, it looked pretty cool to get that mat. Did y'all get the backpack, Leo, or no? Like you had to buy it at the Pokemon Center?
Yeah, we went through a struggle just to get that backpack. I know Ray was fighting I think the first day they opened the Pokemon Center. People were only able to get one, and the line was huge.
Yeah.
By the time we waited like 3 hours, I believe, in the line, and by the time we went in and we checked the bins, and there's no backpack. So yeah, so we're really like heartbroken, and we're like, damn, we're not gonna be able to get it, because the next day we're competing and we can't really like show up. So the only reason that me and Ray and some of the guys got our backpacks is just thanks to Jesus's girl out there. She was out there as a spectator, and she was able to go to the Pokemon Center for us and pick up backpacks for us.
And when you mean,
we're
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
grateful.
off. So when you mean Jesus, you mean Jesus from Brownsville, like Jesus Gonzalez, or another Jesus?
No, Jesus. I forget his last name. He plays over here in Mission, McAllen area.
Oh, okay.
He used to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't remember his last name.
Okay, no worries. I was just curious, but okay, cool. How about you, Daniel? Did you get a chance to go to the Pokemon Center and get some swag or get any collectibles or any of the vendors? You have any chance to pick up some stuff? I know you're playing, right? But did you get a chance to pick any of that stuff up or go to the Pokemon Center over there?
I went to the Pokemon Center and I was somewhat interested in a few things, but not so much. My only buy there was a Miraidon mat. I had to get that. I was there and it was looking at me. I was thinking of Koraidon, but Miraidon just beat it,
Yeah, for sure. Hands down. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, let's go into the next subject. We're going to go ahead and talk about both of your gentlemen's deck lists. And we'll go ahead and start it with, we'll go ahead and don't you worry, I have both your deck lists. So I'm going to go ahead and show the audience your deck list. And we'll do one at a time first. So we'll start with Daniel first. So let me get Daniel's deck list here on the screen. And right here. Okay, so Daniel, first of all, your deck selection was Miraidon, Iron Hands. So kind of tell us your thought process or just why you picked the deck pretty much. And then, I'll kind of ask you some questions about just some deck selection cards and, but yeah, just tell us your thought process for the deck overall and why you picked it.
Yeah, since I started playing Pokemon, I made a Charizard deck. I was running it, even a month before NAIC, maybe 3 weeks before, I was still thinking of playing the Zard. But then a new pack came out, Twilight Masquerade, and a few things changed. Apparently Zard had fallen off quite a bit. So because of that, I figured that I'd have to make a new deck in order to compete at the NAIC and actually be able to win quite a bit. And overall, Miraidon was a deck that I was looking at, from a while back. I have played against Trainer and even online. People that play Miraidon would beat me, and I was always interested in it. It runs fast, has 200 HP plus Pokemon in there. We got the Miraidon, the Iron Hands, we have the Raichu. They can all do a pretty good amount of damage. And it also runs some utility. Raikou V itself has the 1 draw. Greninja Run is in there. Squawkabilly 2 that does speed up the deck. So I figured I might as well go for it. One also thing that did convince me to play the deck was, watching regionals from Vancouver. I believe that was the big tournament before NAIC, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, that's when Block Snorlax was there, right? Or like some of the stall decks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Snorlax was in the finals along with Miraidon EX, and I saw it and I figured, it worked for Mr. Beck, so I might as well run it as well, not a bad thing to copy. There are a lot of Lugia, Gardevoir, and Lost Boxes out there, so I was like, hey, why not just look at what he ran, fix it up a bit to, go up with the current meta and current cards, because Flaffy, I think, was a card that was being used, but then it got rotated out, so I did not play it all during the Flaffy era.
Oh, okay.
So I did tweak it up a bit. I definitely wanted it to be quick, so because of that, I did run 4 Nest Balls and 3 Ultra Ball. I was debating on a 4th Ultra Ball, to make it quicker, but I figured it's already fast enough as is. So that was one thing. If you go to a regionals or NAIC or a giant tournament, you definitely want it to be quick and quick enough to compete against the other decks. If not, you'll just fall behind and not be able to reach the full potential. So that's one thing I very much liked about this Miraidon deck. Get Miraidon, search Hands and Raikou, and just kind of go from there. Use what else you have. Squawk definitely was used. Sometimes I would have a dead hand, but drawing that one nest ball allowed me to get the squawk and pretty much go off from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, looking at your list here, I do see the Blood Moon as well. I'm sure that served you well. And 15 electric energy, 2 double colorless, 1 town store, I guess to get that 4 seal stone, and then your A spec was the prime catcher. So yeah. Did you at any point in your matches have Squawkabilly prize or both Miraidon's prize any given point where you had to adapt, or not so much in your matches?
I believe I did have Prime Catcher prized once or twice, but it was not noticeable enough for me to actually care at that time, and I did get it as a 3rd prize card, I believe.
Okay.
So that was fine. Squawkabilly, I think it was prized once or twice, and I was pretty worried about that. But I believe during those games, I was lucky enough to get my professor's research. I run 3. I was thinking of a 4th, but I figured maybe I did not need to nail my hand that much. But 3 ended up working out. Definitely came in clutch a few times, more than a few times, I'd say. I did brick more than you'd think. I bricked probably on game 1 in at least 3-4 games or 4 matchups, which was pretty unfortunate, but you just have to do your best when that happens, not give up, although a couple of hands are just complete dead draws, right?
Right. And did you like the I'm sure, because I played Miraidon before during the Flaffy build and or the Peony build back in its day, or a couple of months, and Ray can tell you about that, but that's an inside joke. So did you ever like Mew EX's restart when your hand was kind of small, and then hey, I get to draw 2 more cards or 3 more cards or 1 extra card? Did that help you at any time during the tournament to restart with Mew or Greninja for that matter for draw power?
Yeah, definitely. I believe it was in day 1 I was playing against a Gardevoir deck. I think it was like round 8. And, I did not have an out to defeat the Gardevoir deck. I had I believe it was 1 card in my hand. So I did the Mew restart, and I ended up drawing a Lost Vacuum. I did not even consider that option, but I was able to knock out, I believe it was a Drifloon, get the 1 prize card, and then I just, I believe at that time I had Iron Bundled the guy's Gardevoir that was brought out, and got a 2 prizer off of whatever basic in the back. I think he just kind of conceded after that bundle and lost vacuum play.
Wow, yeah. Guardian players hate that, and they also hate jamming tower. So cool. And then my last question, I guess that way we can talk about Leo's deck list, is at any given point, did you run into those pesky Mimikyus, and did Zapdos help you bail you out of those situations in your tournament run here? Any Mimikyus, and did you have to use Zapdos to get rid of it, or no?
No, sadly. When I believe it was a Snorlax stall deck that I was playing against, I tried that at one point, but it just never got off, and honestly, Zapdos did not do as much as I had hoped it would. I mean, it was there just for insurance either way, but I don't really think it was entirely necessary against the decks that I played against for the most part. I'm sure it helped me once or twice throughout the 2 days, but I can't recall when it was especially important.
Yeah, I see. So it seems like if you had to take it back and redo it, would Zapdos be a card you cut out, or probably not, because that extra 10 damage helps round up the math for 230 Pokemon, right? Or 240. I know some people run 2 Zapdos for the Raging Bolts, but that's another different story.
I think I would still leave it in there. I don't really care, It's still plus 10 damage, which is not bad at all. If there was one card that I had wanted to cut out, I would say it would be a rescue board. I never really saw myself actually needing the 2 of them, and I'm sure cutting one of those rescue boards for either a 4th Ultra Ball, or maybe even, as I saw in other high-topping Rhydon decks, the boss's orders would have probably been better. But I would leave Zapdos, another card that I don't really feel it did me as much as I had wanted it to, was the Blood Moon Ursa Luna. I don't remember any time that I especially used it efficiently. Maybe there was one game against Lugia where it could have bailed me out, but I missed that play and I never got too much value from Ursa Luna, I would say.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, okay, so that was pretty much Daniel's deck list. Now we're going to go ahead and show you Leo's deck list. So, Leo, kind of talk about your thought process and why you picked Lugia and why you came up with the 60 cards.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing Lugia for a while, kind of, since everybody kind of like dropped it. When I was playing with Single Strike was a thing, and
Right.
just I did since Charizard was kind of like going down, and I mean, Lugia, sounded really strong now with Legacy and different attackers, and
And the Carmine
just
too.
knowing the deck. Yeah, and the Carmines. Believe it or not, I wasn't a huge fan of Carmine, especially in the tournament and NAIC. I know a lot of people like it.
Okay.
I got myself into like situations where I had a decent hand, and I had a way either to get a Carmine, or I already had one and did not play it going first, just for the same reason that I didn't want to lose some resources that I had in my hand. And sometimes it did cost me a little bit, but in some games, the waiting, not using that Carmine, I got the Ultra Ball, and I was able to go Jock, and I was able to set up a lot stronger than what I would have set up.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, that's why I had Carmine. I won, but I believe for that tournament, I bumped it up to 2.
Right.
One research. Yeah, because I caught myself before when we were testing that my Carmine did get prized, so just having 2 just in case it didn't get prized, and I wanted to find it. It was a good. I would definitely keep it at 2. Wouldn't go higher than that. But yeah, my whole process with the deck was just, it was super strong. Really fast. Most of the decks that were out there wanted to go second. So even now winning the dice roll was just felt good because they were still giving me the first. If I was able to set up pretty strong, I probably won game 1, and then game 2 they wouldn't let me go first, and they would kind of just punish themselves too because they wanted to go second, and they would even start even slower, and I was able to go Jock, Ultra Ball, and still have a strong setup. And that's kind of how like games were going versus me. So I wasn't really losing unless I was getting countered. I know I hit 2 lost box with Miraidon in hands that I lost to. Very close games, and then I believe I lost the other 2 matches. I lost 1 to a lost box Dragapult, and I don't remember the last match that I lost to. But I know those 2 the last matches I lost because I ended up breaking like game 1, and then game 2 I just kind of couldn't, I set up, but I set up like turn 3, turn 4, and my opponent was already ahead, and it kind of was just like a whole bad game. If I can't set up, I break, and it's just basically it for the game, for the match.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Lugia was good to me in day 1, and was able to play against a lot of different decks, and there was just so much that I could do. I know I know Danny was saying the Ursa Luna in his deck didn't really help him as much. And Lugia, it did help me quite a bit, just because I did hit a couple of decks that were kind of like with Shimpao, and some of them were running like the hands, and it was just like those numbers that Ursa Luna hits really good. I know in one of my matches, one of my last matches in day 1, I was playing against a kid that was playing Shimpao, and we go all the way to game 3. And the only reason I won that last game was because I was able to Ursa Luna twice. I did it mid game. Knocked out one of his Shimpows. He returned knocked out my Ursaluna. He knew I couldn't knock out the Shimpow again. So I ended up promoting the Luminion. I thored in my Luminion into the Ursaluna that was in the
Yeah.
graveyard, and I was able to knock out again. So that's kind of what won me the game. So it was super good. I mean, the only thing that I didn't really like about the deck was just that the walls, the water guy was called
Yeah. Ogre Pond. Yeah.
Ogre Pond. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Ogre Pond was something that I could see myself cutting from the list,
Okay.
just because I know me, Ray, Caesar, kind of like it's good. I mean, the Sob is good against some decks that don't have a way to retreat. The sniping is decent, but for the most part, every deck is running Manaphy, and they see a Lugia, and they automatically put a Manaphy down. So just the deck card and the list. And if I would have known that Guardia would have been as popular as it was, I would have definitely put a Drapion V instead of that. Would have definitely had a good attacker against EX Guardia in the late game. You know, apart from that, the deck ran really good. I was really comfortable with the energy count. I know me and Caesar were talking about it. He had it at 16. I had it at 17 energy. He convinced me to go. He convinced me to go down to 16, and he said he felt fine. So I did do that. Went down to 16. So energy count felt good. 3 bosses felt good. Pokemon, everything felt pretty decent. You know, the deck really ran good unless I was getting countered or I was breaking. That was basically it. I didn't really have a tough matchup besides I believe it was just one guy playing Gardevoir in day 2. They did give me a tough matchup, but I ended up still winning, and I won because of the Wellspring, the water guy. So apart from that, I mean, the deck ran great. I mean, it got me to day 2, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, for sure. And my only question, I know you said most of this stuff, so that's cool. My only question to you is just the Luminion. I noticed you have 2 Luminions. At one point, did you have one and you made a change, or talk to me about that, having 2 Luminion Bs? I'm assuming it was for more consistency, right?
Yeah. So I was the one that did the change and went up to 2 Luminions when I was playing the deck. A lot of the primary lists in the beginning that people were seeing were cutting down the Luminion to 1. They were only running 1, and I know a lot of the guys that I played that I would play Luminion early. They were kind of like real shocked. They were like, "Oh, you play a second Luminion?" And I was like, "Yeah, why wouldn't you play a second Luminion? I need a boss here to win." I was like, you know. So yeah, that was basically it was my call. I did end up cutting, I believe it was a Lugia V. I had 4 Lugia Vs, and I went down to 3-3 for a second Luminion. It felt good. I believe I didn't convince the guys, but I did tell the guys like Caesar and them and Ray that the double Luminion just felt great, especially since we do run a couple techs in the deck. And you know, they're one-ofs, and you kind of like want to just find those techs when you need them. You know, that's the only way you can get a successful board and play. You know, early you're gonna go Luminion early for Carmine for the most part, and then late game you can't find that one of Thornton to win the game. And if you know, you most of the time you have an Ultra Ball, you have a Capturing Aroma. In my case, I had him as a Goza to go off. So all of those gets me my second Luminion and lets me win the game. You know. I now, like in the deck, having Legacy in the deck, you get Aqua Return, so it's not so much of a threat to have double Luminion in the list. So
That's
you know,
true.
it felt good. It felt good.
Okay. That's cool, man. Yeah, like, yeah, great info by both of you gentlemen, you know, and like I said, these were the 2 lists that you just heard it, that Daniel and Leo just talked about their thought process. And Daniel, before we move on, I'm assuming when you played the Miraidon, did you do this testing online, or did you play this at Cascade with with Osiel and all them, or where'd you actually get a chance to test this deck before you went?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I did start playing it online on Pokemon Live, best place to deck tech. But some of those games, honestly, no matter what, if I started out pretty strong, they kind of just concede on turn one, so it was not helpful at all. But still, knowing the setup, knowing what to play in the beginning on turn one really does matter. What to Nest Ball, what to Ultra Ball, if I should really Professor's Research or Squawk, which for the most part, if my hand does not have enough gas in it, I should just throw it away and draw a new hand, and hopefully that keeps it going, which was my thought process and definitely did help me out, whereas I would have probably lost if I had not, so that was pretty important. As for tournaments in person, I might have gone to one or two. Not really much at all. I think I finished the deck maybe 2 weeks before the tournament, so I could not playtest effectively. But still, I tried to put in as many games as I could, which was honestly maybe around 10 or less in person. So it was mainly just doing it online and then imagining what I would have to go against, which for the most part I did know it'd be Gardevoir or Lost Box. I did play against 3 Lost Box decks in a row. I lost to the first one, and after that happened, I kind of knew what to play or not to play against the other 2, which luckily came up right after. So it was more just playtesting turn 1, turn 2, and whether I should, a generator right away, which definitely was the play. I did need to set up ASAP in order to put pressure on these guys and to just kind of control the whole field and the flow of the game. I'm sure it definitely surprised my opponents when I was taking like 5 minutes to set up and had a full-on Iron Hands with Ampy very much ready. And in some games, when I went second, I was able to get that 2 prizer on my turn 1, so definitely helped just knowing what to set up.
Yeah, and from what I hear from you, Daniel, and even Leo, is that just proper sequencing and knowing your deck. And if there's one thing that you want to learn out there, guys, to be a better player, and I know someone said it before, but Pokemon rewards proper sequencing, because Pokemon is not it's not like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, where you could interrupt the trigger or put it on the stack. Pretty much it's my turn, you turn kind of deal. But at the same time, it's easier said than done, because if you missequence something, chances are at a big tournament especially, and cash prizes on the line, your opponent's not really going to let you take it back. So if there's one thing you want to take from Daniel or Leo, is definitely work on your sequencing and just definitely know your deck. You can tell that Daniel and Leo know their list really well. They probably know every 60 card, and they can probably tell you why, and you just heard it, why they picked the cards that they picked. So if there's something you want to learn about these 2 gentlemen, definitely take in consideration that they have proper sequencing. They know their matchups. They've been testing, and you heard it from Daniel and Leo. Leo had his play group, Daniel played online. And it's kind of cool that both these 2 gentlemen, like I said earlier, went on a different pathway, but the results speak for themselves. So that's pretty cool overall, okay? All right, so with that being said, we're going to go into, pretty much the bread and butter of this podcast in this episode. We're going to go ahead and talk about their matchups. And I know they've been kind of saying it throughout, which is perfectly fine. And so what we're going to do is we'll start with Leo first. I'm going to put Leo's matchups on there, and Leo will talk to us about his day 1. He'll summarize day 1, and then day 2, and any specific matchups he remembers. I know he does, but any key matchups that he remembers or any clutch plays he made in day 1 or day 2. So Leo, let me get your matchups up here, and we do have it here. So talk to us about day 1 first, and any particular matchups you remember or that you played that kind of stuck out to you, that that was pretty cool. And I know you said some already, but hey, feel free to say it again.
Yeah. Well, round 1 was a mirror match, which is not really fun to play against. So really not much to say there. And then I played it round two, I believe. I remember playing against Frank Diaz.
Hmm.
Really skilled player. He sequenced everything pretty fine, pretty good actually. I mean, he ended up winning the match, right? Um, he was just playing a really awkward deck that I hadn't really like played against. He's playing Lost Box Engine with a whole Miraidon deck and a bunch of lightning attackers. And
Hmm.
when I thought that I was gonna win the match against him because I had knocked out his hands and he needed basically get another hands going
Hmm.
so he can knock out my Sensino. With his 4 card hand, he was able to set up another hands, and it was just really mind blowing that he had the combo because he was able to Super Rod, use Tandem Unit with the Miraidon to bring back the hands. He was able to Mirage Gate the 2 energies that he put back in the deck, and he had a double turbo in hand. So he was able to do all that in one turn with 4 cards in hand. So it was super crazy to see that. But apart from that, that was the only match that kind of like got me. That was really tough to lose against that. And I know game day one, I did play against a guy at the very end. I believe he was playing Shinpao. Was a kid was playing Shinpao, and I believe it was for the win because we needed to win and hope our next was either a win or a tie to try to make day two.
Okay, so it was
Um,
so Nick Stewart pretty much. That was round 8. Nick Stewart. That's
yeah,
okay.
he was playing Shinpao.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we were grinding all 3 games because I believe I don't know if he got game one or I got game one and he got game two. We went to game three, and that was when I did that play in game three where I did the Thorn play for the double Blood Moon. So that's kind of what got me into the winning that match. And really awkward thing with him was that I didn't really know the guy, but after I won the match, he
Hmm.
did ask me, well, without the judges being there, and I know he can't really ask this, but he did ask me after I won the whole match that if it was okay for me to tie with him, and I was like, you serious, bro? I was like, I'm not gonna give you a tie, bro. After I just granted three games, I was like, I'll just take the win.
Right.
So
Right.
it was just kind of, yeah, it was kind of weird that he asked me, and even my opponent that was not my opponent, but the guy that was next to me playing, he also he was like, bro, what was wrong with this guy, bro? Like, you guys played the whole game and he wanted you to give him a tie because this and that. Or I was like, yeah. So that was kind of like the only weird part
Hmm.
about day one. Um, my next match was, I believe, it was another mirror match against Lugia. It was a guy named I don't remember his name, but I know him. He's like in the Houston scene. I believe he's a Houston player.
Rudy. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I think so.
Rudy.
Yeah. Bailey did say that he knew him or he had played against him, something like that. So I'm over there. I'm at the table waiting for him. He shows up, and I asked him nicely. You want to play it out? I have my mat ready. I take out my deck. I will start shuffling, and he hadn't taken nothing out, and I was like, oh, but do you want to tie? Do you want to play it out? And he was like, no, but I'm not gonna tie. I was like, all right, let's play it out.
Hmm.
After I set up my mat and everything, he they bring the slip over, and he was just like, okay, let's just tie, bro. So he didn't really want to play it out, and he was like, okay, let's just go to just tie it, kind of like let's leave early or whatever, and go to day two or whatever. So I was like, okay. So that's kind of like what happened day one. Wasn't too crazy. I don't remember a lot of my matchups, but I know my 2, 3. I don't know how many losses I got day one. I believe it was 2.
Yeah.
Um,
Frank Diaz and then Alex Reed. Round 6. Alex Reed.
he was playing Lost Box too, right?
Doesn't tell me. It just the only info. I have day 2 decks because these are the people that made day 2. But as far as day 1 decks, unless they reported it, but Alex Reed did it. So, but it says you lost to Alex
Okay.
Reed. He didn't make day 2, right?
Okay.
But there's no info. And if you don't, it's fine. No worries. Maybe you'll
Yeah,
remember.
I believe he was either playing. He should have either playing Lost Box or I can't think of anything else that he would have been playing. I'm pretty sure it was Lost Box, and it was probably a close match. And yeah, he ended up taking it. Maybe I missed something or something was surprised. I'm not too sure on the whole match.
Mhm.
But like I told the guys when I was there, I kind of wasn't really trying to think about my losses. I was just kind of like try to push forward and just kind of looked at the next game as like, let's win this, and that's kind of what my mentality was that tournament. I needed to make it a day two, and I needed to, get a good record in day two, and try my best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's nothing wrong with that. Okay. All right, so let's go to Daniel now, and we'll talk about his day one, and then we'll see what's up. Let me get Daniel's matches here. All right, so Daniel, talk to us about your day one experience. Any particular matchups you remember? Anything you did clutch-wise to get a win on your first 9 rounds?
Round one was pretty straightforward. The guy was playing Lugia. He saw that I had Rhydon, and he pretty much knew what was going to happen. I ended up going 2-0 against him. Next round, I was pretty confident. The guy was playing Lost Box, but I did end up bricking, I believe, in game one. Game two, I ended up just misplaying. It happens, and he took that one. That was my first loss. Next 2 rounds, round 3 and 4, were also against a Lost Box variant. I pretty much just went Iron Hands on their small prizers and got 2. And I ended up winning, I guess, fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but simple. It was not as tough as the round 2. Round 5, I did end up playing against Nathan Beck, the Vancouver champ. I actually did not even know that it was him, even though I saw his game and he inspired me to play Rhydon. I'm bad with faces, but I was talking to him a bit before the match, and he was saying how he played for a long time, since like 2010. I just figured, he's been around the Poke Block a while, so I figured it'd be tough, but I did brick game 1. Terrible. 5 energies, 2 Pokemon. And none of those Pokemon could search, and I did not even play a trainer, so pretty bad, somewhat embarrassing against him. Game 2, I was doing good, but I did end up misplaying. I believe I attached a Bravery Charm to my Raichu V, and I was unable to get the Forest Stone on him, and I believe I had Raikou Prize, so no ways to search for a boss to get a game on him. Unfortunate, but I guess I met him. We did chat a bit about Miraidon afterwards, so that's pretty memorable. Really enjoyed that one. I believe he got 48th place by the end of the tournament. Afterwards, so those were my 2 losses, Miraidon Mirror Match and then the Lost Box, and I pretty much knew that I could not afford another loss, so at that point I kind of was just determined to not lose at all. Luckily, my next 2 games were Lugia. In round 6, I did brick in game 1, terrible. Did not put up a fight. So the next 2 games I did have to try even harder, which I was able to get those 2 wins, and I won round 6. Round 7 was a bit tougher, I'd say. The guy...
DJ.
Those 2 Lugia...
Yeah, DJ. That was his name.
DJ, round 7?
Yeah, round 7, DJ. And then round 6 was Nixon. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, as soon as DJ, I believe, saw my Lugia deck, he pretty much knew it was going to be a tough one. And he just was not having a good time at all during the whole round. So I believe I took game 1. And then he took game 2, which he was pretty happy about, but he still knew that he might have just gotten lucky on that one. So then I took game 3, and I'm sure those 2 Lugia players have been playing all season for their points, and they're pretty devastated not making day 2. Next round 8 was against Gardevoir. I did 2-0.
Nelson? That was Nelson? Cool.
I got pretty lucky, I guess, on game 2, because he misplayed. He could have evolved his Kirlia to block the Iron Bundle that he knew was coming, but he just decided not to. Complete misplay by him, and he ended up losing that round. Round 9, that was going to be against the Roaring Moon. I remember that guy because, I like Roaring Moon. and he was playing the, as I found out later, the Japanese Roaring Moon. That is pretty quick. I started running it recently at the local. I really like it, enjoy it. It's pretty versatile and can do a lot of things. But we ended up tying because it was the last round of the day, and we both just wanted to make it to day 2. That was pretty much my day 1 experience.
Yeah, cool. And that was kind of on point, Leo as well. Just talking about your day 1s. So, and from what I noticed from both of you is that, and for the community out there, you can tell that, well, in Daniel's case, Daniel played a very aggro, fast-paced deck. And Leo kind of did too, at least the opening. But if you haven't noticed already, these two gentlemen, they hardly had any ties. So it goes to show that when you know your deck well enough, you're gonna play at a constant speed to make sure that you're picking up the pace and that you're doing a decent pacing, and that's gonna help you, because ties, yeah, they get you 1 match point. Especially against that pesky Block Snorlax. But these two gentlemen didn't really play Block Snorlax, at least in day 1. And for that being said, especially Daniel's deck, it's cool that playing those 2 decks that Leo and Daniel played, you can see that they hardly had any ties. And of course, the only way you do a tie is if you know that game stay is not in your favor, of course. But again, these two gentlemen did a good job with their sequencing and, of course, their pace of play. Now, going back to Leo real quick. Leo, I know, and this is just for the community as me being a teal and a judge, I know the guy asked you for that tie after the fact. Technically speaking, I mean, morally it's wrong, but he, at least for that set, he can legally ask you, but just once, and I guess that was his, he pulled the trigger at the very end. Sounded very desperate too, of course, because you had won the fact, and he probably knew that you were going, that obviously you got the win, but I guess he just decided to do a last Hail Mary, and that just obviously, now if he asked again, you do have grounds to call a judge and be like, hey, now, spirit of the community and gamemanship, pretty much, because you can only ask once, and usually people ask at the beginning, and if they say no, then you can't ask again. If you ask again, then it's like, okay, yeah, we're not. But so technically he wasn't wrong, but just ethically and just just be a man, take it, you lost, move on, come on. But so
it was just wrong, to say at the very end.
Yeah.
After we grinded a whole 50 minutes or 3 rounds.
Yeah,
so it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard it. I know in some games, people are like, you want to play it out and see what happens, sure, and then and I've seen it escalate to where it really gets heated. But people will play and then you know what, yeah, let's just tie, and then they end up tying, making the day 2. But this one I haven't heard. I'm sure Billy or anyone else out there has heard some crazy stories, but this one, it's been a while. So, all right. So, last thing we're going to talk about is the day 2 stuff. We'll go back to Leo. So, looking at Leo's day 2, Leo, talk to us about any matchups, particularly you remember day 2, up into round 15. Now, of course, both of you were feeling pretty good about it, and of course, with that being said, day 2, you have to wake up again at 8 o'clock, I believe, or earlier, and got to be there. And one thing you need to realize, that anybody that makes day 2, you don't have to turn your decks. Only if you make top 8 at the regionals or an IC. So these gentlemen got to keep their decks, probably re-sleeved. Daniel, did you get a chance to re-sleeve, or you just kept the same sleeves?
I just kept the same sleeves. They were fairly new, so I had no trouble with them.
Cool. And that's another thing I guess the community will probably want to know. Were you rocking the Dragon Shield, or you have your own little sauce of sleeves that you like to use particularly?
I ended up getting the Dragon Shield Lightning sleeves. They're dual, so black on the inside, yellow or lightning on the outside.
There you go. Yeah, matching that Meridian color. Leo, how about you? What sleeves were you rocking?
Yeah, I was rocking the Dragon Shield. Day 1 was just the regular black, the OG black sleeves. And then day 2, after we were done with day 1, we went out to eat, and all the guys, Billy, Rick, Ricardo and everybody was like, "Oh, you need a on sleeve for day 2 or re-sleeve or whatever."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I didn't really bring extra sleeves to do that, and mine looked fairly okay. But Ricardo was really persistent, and he was like, you know what, here, bro, like I have some extra sleeves, like it's like I'll sponsor you the sleeves. And he was such a nice guy. He ended up giving me a brand new pack of katana sleeves to sleeve the deck again for day 2, and I'm grateful for that.
Cool. All right, so now we're gonna go into day 2, and we're gonna go ahead and shift it back to Leo. Leo, talk to us about your day 2 run, and talk to us about maybe you want to go into detail against Jared Grimes, maybe Shimpao. You know, pretty well known player in the YouTube community as well. So talk to us about day 2, brother.
Yeah, I believe the first round, I was playing against a guy that was playing.
Lugia, Michael.
It was Lugia. Yeah. We played the mirror match. Like I said, those I believe those losses I got on day 2, I bricked really bad. He was able to set up both games. He was able to set up like quick with like double Archeop, Ultra Ball, and I couldn't, like game 1 I couldn't find an Archeop to save me, and then game 2 I had the Archeops, but I didn't have a way to discard them, so it was super annoying, especially because it was the first game. You know, you kind of just woke up, you're there, and you can't really find the grooves to kind of like play. So he kind of got me there on the mirror match, which was pretty annoying. But after that, I believe I played Jared right after that.
Yeah, you did. You played Jared.
Yeah, because when I was sitting in like the table for round 1, or for the round 1 and day 2, he was sitting next to us, and he was losing his match too against his opponent. So yeah, we got paired up together, and so he was a cool guy. You know, we were talking the whole time, and told him that I watched them on YouTube and stuff like that. He ended up also signing my mat and everything. He was a cool guy, and you know, I respect him a lot because the way he sequenced Shimpao and the way that he plays was very good. So I really had to be on my toes the way I was playing, and the way I had to, you know, sequence the stuff that I needed to do, because like he doesn't miss. Like he wasn't missing. Like I think I caught a break in game 1 against him. He kind of like he bricked a little bit. He couldn't find his backs to get started. So after I kind of like set up and was able to set up the Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So after I set up the Archeops, and I was able to set up I believe is the water guy. Yeah, the Ogre Pawn.
Okay.
To snipe. Yeah, once I was able to set up the Ogre Pawn, and he saw that I had the Legacy in deck, he kind of like swooped it up game 1. When he ended up setting up a little bit better, but I was still able to, like, you know, I knew what he wanted to do, and I knew how to beat Shimpao, since I really had played a good Shimpao, especially like playing against Victor, and Victor was playing Shimpao a lot down here. You know, Victor's no slouch. You know, he plays Shimpao very good, and you know, against Lugia, it's a tough matchup still. You know, so like knowing what to do against Shimpao, you know, kind of really helped me. You know, but game 2, he really had me in the ropes, and I believe I was able to find the boss to boss up his backs and knock out his backs, and he had no way to kind of like come back and like put another backs down. And you know, after I did that, and you know, he was kind of like struggling a little bit, you know. But yeah, I 2-0'd him, and it was a fun game, but didn't expect to do that to such a like good player, and like, you know, respected player. But it was fun, you know, playing him. And then after that, I believe I'm not sure who I played. I don't know if you have it there.
Yeah, you played round 12. You played against a gentleman named Jay Roberts. He was running Lost Box Zard, Sableye Zard, Lost Box.
Oh no, no, he was playing. He was playing Dragapult with Lost Box and Lizard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was no Dragon Volt, but yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sure it was there, but yeah, you lost to him.
Yeah,
Against. Yeah.
yeah. I lost to him. Yeah, I remember that because he was playing the Dragapult version with Lost Box, and it was kind of like just weird, but it worked for him. You know, I tried to minimize his hand, and I don't know who I was selling. After he got a couple of knocks versus me, you know, I would YOLO him to like 4-3 or whatever, and he would just like comfy like 3 times, and then use the Draclopes 2 times, and then chorus, and his hand was up to like 10 again, and I was like, that's crazy, you know, jeez, you know, I YOLO him to 3, and his hand is already big again, so
Yeah.
he just saw everything he needed. And he was playing the Temple of Sinnoh, so he played it at the right time. And both times against him, I couldn't find my stadiums to save me, so it was just a tough match after that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then round 13, you tied against Tanner, and then 14-15, you did take some wins against Agardi and I guess Pidgeot Zard.
party.
But
Yeah.
you tied against Giratina in round 13.
Yeah. That gentleman, he was slow playing me game 2.
Oh, okay.
He had taken game 1, and then game 2 he was slow playing like very little, and I caught judge on him, and he started playing a little bit quicker, and I just told him, I brought in you to speed it up. I need to play this and that, and game 2 versus him, I was just attaching, and I was just kind of like swinging, getting knockouts quick, and you know, trying to finish the round, like the match quick. And I ended up taking game 2, so we go to game 3, and in game 3 we had 5 minutes to set up. It was 5 minutes until like time was gonna be called. So I go first. I set up amazing, and I have everything that I could ask for, right? And then on his turn, he only sets up a comfy and a Tina, and he has to jet the Tina forward to go abyss seeking. So he leaves the Tina in the active. So I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna knock it out with Lugia for the 220, and then I'll set up my hands for the comfy so I can get the double, like the knockouts on the comfies for 2 prize cards. So I set up my Lugia, and then when I arc up again to check if my legacy was there, just kind of like double check to see if I was able to swing with Iron Hands. I saw that it was there. I didn't grab it. I start shuffling up my deck. I give it to my opponent. My opponent cuts it, and right away when I did the swing, I was like, okay, knockout on the Tina. Time was called, and he hadn't drawn his card, so technically I was still turned 0.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of like that was when it screwed me up there, when I just swung, got the knockout, and then hopefully time was called on his turn. Like that, I would have added 2 turns to swing with hands, and I probably would have won the game.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just. Yeah. I mean, obviously he played the clock, and I remember that story that you told me when we met earlier last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just unfortunate, you know, horrible timing, right? But you can only do so much against that. But definitely could have been a win, right? So just unfortunate. What about your last 2 rounds then? Anything you remember particularly that stuck out?
Last 2 rounds, I played against a Guardy first, and game 1, Iron Hands was the MVP against that. I set up pretty good, pretty fast. Started using the Iron Hands, and he kind of conceded. And then game 2, I ended up starting with Ogre Pawn, and I ended up using, because I went second, I ended up going Sob on, I don't remember what was in the active, but he wasn't able to retreat and trying to put the Flutter Mane or the Cleft Gear, anything like that, to kind of mess me up. So I Sob him. I think it was like a route or something. I Sob the route, so he couldn't retreat it. At that point, I'm doing V Star, and then I got the Legacy and everything on the Ogre Pawn, and I start sniping his curly on the back, and I believe I had a boss, another curly that he had on the back, so I took two curlies and I one attack, and then from there he kind of was just like, no, you probably have game already because I had to already taken out his consistency. But that's basically how I won those matchups against him. And then I played a guy from Canada, I believe he's Canadian, who played Charizard,
Oh, Daniel
Pidgeot.
Rao. Daniel Rao.
Yeah. So he was playing the Charizard Pidgeot, but he was playing a weird list with Cape. But yeah, game one, I believe I take it fairly quick. He's a player that plays super fast, like super like I don't know how to explain it, but like
Yeah,
he's searching everything he does like super quick, like that was crazy. Yeah, and it was fun playing against him. You know, game one, I win pretty easy, and then game two, I have him in the ropes, and I believe I only needed one more prize to win the game, and he needed, I believe, like three prize cards to win the game. And he promotes, I believe he promotes his Charizard EX, and he puts Cape on it, knowing that I didn't have enough energies to knock it out with my Encinos. So he played around against that. So he knows that I had to two shot the Charizard, right?
Right.
So the way that I kind of took that match was I ended up using Thornton again, which was my MVP in that game. I believe I swapped out I don't remember if it was Mencino or what was that I put forward, but I went Thornton, and then I swapped that for the Ogre Pawn, and then I loaded up the Ogre Pawn, and I hit the active for I believe 100, and then I was able to knock out like a Charmander or something like that in the back to get my one prize card to win. So
nice.
he was kind of disappointed because he knew that I didn't have a win. I didn't have a win con. So he didn't expect that I was able to snipe the back. I didn't have to go through the EX to win the game.
Makes me wonder if he had Manaphy, and I'm sure he regrets not putting it down.
Yeah. He had gotten rid of it pretty early.
Right, not knowing that, not knowing the Thornton play. Because obviously, if you telegraph the Overpawn, it's like, okay, Manaphy, and, it's kind of like the mind games thing. So, cool, man. All right, so we'll go back to Daniel to kind of conclude this. Daniel, talk about your day 2 run and any particular matches you remember that stood out to you in your day 2 experience. Starting with...
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Definitely, I guess most of the matches in day 2 pretty memorable for myself. And round 1, day 2, I ended up playing against Dre. Apparently he's in Shuffle Squad.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really know. I just kind of was there, right? And he was my opponent. He was playing Gardevoir, and we all got there pretty early, I guess. We were just hanging there, but I wasn't really chatting, just getting psyched up for day 2. I did end up bricking game 1. Nothing I could do. And he pretty much was doing his thing, and I just scooped early, right? Make more time for the other 2 games. Game 2, I believe I brought out the Raikou. Maybe took out a couple of one prizers, and then I ended up finishing up with Iron Hands. I remember I was at 2 prizes left, and he was at 6, maybe for the other 2 games, which is sometimes how it is against Lost Box or Gardevoir. Me at 2 and them at 6, which it's pretty tough to come back from that. So I won the second game. Game 3, I'm not sure which game it was, but he did end up doing the unfair stamp to me, but luckily I was able to get a Professor's Research off of that, and I went back up to 7 and had everything I needed in my hand. I think that was probably game 2, because game 3, I do remember that it was getting pretty close after I got 4 prizes. He was catching up to me, and I just needed to, get that last one out. I believe I had put energy on my Raichu. Had maybe 5 in my back row, so Raichu could have done about 300. And I remember top decking a town store, which I used to attach a Forest Stone to Raichu, I suppose. And I was able to get a boss's orders out to bring out his Gardevoir and go for that last knockout for the last 2 prizes. So that's 2 scenes I remember from that matchup. And I took that. Round 2, that was against Zard, which, like I mentioned earlier, I was running in the beginning. And really to beat that deck, I was hoping on them to brick, but sadly that did not happen. It was against an Ethan Ribo. I believe he ended up making top 30. He got to 26th place, and he 2-0'd me. There was really nothing I could do. I believe game 1, I had brought out the hands, and I knocked out, I guess it was a Charmander, but I believe he had a second Charmander, and all he did was Rare Candy, Evolve, and did a 240 to my Iron Hands. I believe he did Lost Vacuum my baton, which is something a lot of people did against me. Lost Vacuuming the baton and then knocking it out. So I pretty much couldn't recover from there. I didn't have much more energy in the back row, and he was just speeding up with his Pidgeysard combo. So he took it. And then game 2 was pretty similar. I did not knock out the Pokemon on turn 1 just because I knew that my Pokemon would get knocked out. I believe I was thinking of knocking out a Lumineon on his end with my Iron Hands. But sadly, I don't think that happened. I might have just taken 1 Pokemon out. I already forgot which one. Maybe it was a Pidgeot, but he already had everything set up. There was really no way for me to come back when he had everything going for him, and probably had a double Zard at any point in the game. So that's how my game round 2 went, and day 2. I can't really complain. It was just a bad matchup for me. Round 3, that was against a Lugia. I had already taken 1 loss, and I knew I could not lose another one, or else I'd just be out of the tournament. It was against a guy, I believe his name was Roberto, just checking the Arcanine. And he was doing pretty good. He did mention afterwards that he had played against maybe 4 or 5 Miraidons. Maybe he played against 4 in total, 3 others and me. He did end up beating those Miraidon decks, so I'm lucky to have not lost. Game 1 went to me. Pretty standard, I suppose. Maybe he just did not set up efficiently. I knocked out his only Lugia, and he had to. Any Lugia he would bring out, I would just knock out with hands and Zapdos in the back, powering it up. So pretty simple. Game 2, I did end up misplaying. I believe that I was able to knock out a Lugia, but he had 2, so he was able to bring out the V-Star. And I think at that time he only had 1 of the Archeops, which was my chance, but I guess I did not take it. Ended up just attacking with hands again, I believe. Whereas I really should have brought out the Ursa Luna, which would have survived any attack he would have had for me. But I did not, and he was able to knock out my other 2 prizer. And then turns were called on game 3, so we pretty much just went for a tie because I was just setting up my turn 1, and maybe I could have gone for it, but I ended up just going for the tie. I was getting pretty tired by then, right? And a tie is not so bad at that point. I just didn't want to really get kicked out. So at that point I was 1-1-1, and then round 4 unfortunately was against a Snorlax Star deck, and I pretty much had no chance in game 1. I brought out the Iron Hands in the front. They brought out I believe it was a Mimikyu, or something. So I thought I was playing a completely different deck. I thought I was playing against Lost Box. So I set up my other Iron Hands in the back row. Pretty bad thing to do against Snorlax stall. So they pretty much just stalled me, brought out the other Iron Hands when I was putting energy on the one in front. And pretty much went as expected. Stalled me out. Did not really have enough energy on my Pokemon in time to do as much damage. I maybe got 4 prizes or 3 prizes in both games, but I just couldn't get the last 2 out. At one point I probably could have. I'm sure I just misplayed because I could have knocked out the Rotom when I did not, and they just pennied it back to their hand. But yeah, I believe turns were called on game 3, but at that point, was it game 3? No, I think it was
Game 2, maybe game 2.
Game 2. Yeah, because I don't think I did not take any game at all. So I pretty much just took the L there, and that's how round 4 went. Round 5 and day 2. Well, I mean, after the Snorlax stall deck, I figured I was already kicked out of the tournament, so... Well, not kicked out, but I just had no chance of making top cut. So I went upstairs, looked around at some cards, picked up a SIM right, why not? And then I went back down, and the round had already started. I was maybe a couple of minutes late, but I was just kind of going for casual gameplay at the end, the last 2 rounds, right? I'm not gonna make top 8, top 16 by that point, so I just kind of took it easy. I did play against Gardevoir that round 5. It was against a guy from Mexico. I did see that he had a London shirt, so I'm sure that he went to that tournament there in London. I forgot what it's called.
UIC.
UIC, right. So we're just playing. He was playing pretty good. He was more focused than I was, right? I was still taking that last L hard. And I was just, again, just playing more casually. There was a judge that came up because I was pretty late, saying that if we went to times, that, he would just take the win. But I wasn't really worried about that. I mean, I'm sure that he had grinded all year long. Meanwhile, I was just joining in, and just happy to be there. Mm-hmm. But he was pretty determined to still win, and he was playing Gardevoir pretty good. He did end up sending my Iron Hands to the back and killing it with the Screaming Tail. That definitely does do a lot of damage to the back row. And in this situation, it was enough to take my 2 prizers. He must have brought out my Greninja to the front, which I believe I was still able to rescue board it and switch card it out. But still, I mean, he had taken out my big hitter. And I don't think I was hitting with the generators. I don't always hit, but when I do, I get pretty lucky. But in those 2 games, he was just doing his best, and definitely commend him for that. And I took a 2-0 loss on that one. We just chatted a bit afterwards. He had gone to, I believe, Brazil also to play there. But he's been around. So then last match, round 6, that was against a Lost Box player, which I figured I'd have a good chance against him. But his deck was, I guess, a different kind of Lost Box. I had not really played against much Lost Box until that day, or the day before. And I was just not really prepared for it. This guy set up pretty quick. I believe he was able to bring out his Ursaluna and do the... I forgot what it was called, honestly. Lost Mirror, was it? He was able to get the energies on the Ursaluna.
Mirage Gate?
Yeah, Mirage Gate.
Oh, okay.
And he was able to knock out pretty much any Pokemon he wanted with that Ursaluna. I would have had to double tap that Ursaluna to get the knockout. I believe he had killed my Raichu, which was the only chance I had. And then he knocked out Hands, and, to did not go so well for me. He had a pretty good setup. Game 2 was pretty similar, you know. Again, I was just taking it easy by that point. Well, he seemed to be a pretty good player. He was from Canada, and well, I'm sure he had to travel a long way to get to NAIC. I believe he had been playing for a good while, you know, and he just had the edge over me. I was not able to set up quick enough. By the last 2 games, or 2 matchups, my generators were just not hitting as they were before. Maybe I just, misplayed here and there. I did try to go for his Comfies, which I was able to get 1 off of, but then whatever Pokemon that had energy, he pretty much just knocked it out with the Luna, and I just did not have enough energy on the rest of the Pokemon to keep going as much as I was. And like I said, Ursaluna is pretty dangerous for a Miraidon deck. And he was just able to sequence pretty well, get what he needed. He did not brick, and he just got the edge and defeated me 2-0 there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like Ursaluna is kind of like the mini Charizard against Miraidon, because it's tanky and it hits pretty hard.
Definitely, it's just out of reach.
Right, yeah, unless you have a Raichu, right? But then we don't have Flaffy or anyways. I mean, there's a way to get energies, but that requires a coin flip with that. I don't know the name of that card, but it's that piece of paper item card that you flip a coin and you get to put it back in the
energy sticker.
Yeah, energy sticker. There you go. Yeah, back.
Yeah, I was thinking of running it, but the coin flip was pretty uneven, I would say.
Yeah, you're already playing energy. You know, Miraidon players are already playing energy lotto with the generator, and then now to now becomes gambler with flipping the coin, for the energy stickers. So don't blame me there. Right. Yeah, don't blame me.
I feel like a winner if I did that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, gentlemen. So you heard it from Daniel and Leo. It's been quite a while already, and we're gonna kind of wrap things up. We'll kind of give final thoughts from both of them. Probably just more advice, but before we wrap it up, I do want to thank Daniel and Leo for being here today and giving us their time to talk about their day 2 and day 1 run at NIC in New Orleans, Louisiana. So before we sign off, any final words or anything, advice or anything you want to say out there, Leo, to the community at this time?
Only thing is probably, stick to one deck, stick to that deck and play as much as you can, sequence the best you can, and know every single matchup to try to minimize your losses when you're playing in a tournament. That's basically it.
Cool. How about you, Daniel? Any final thoughts? Any last words out there to the community, or anything you want to say?
Yeah, definitely deck tech. Know your deck. You should definitely know every 60 cards if you want to really get far. Make sure that you have a great turn 1, turn 2 that's consistent. If not, you're probably fought against others who are trying to reach that consistency as well. Even in bad matchups, you can probably still win, although it still could be tougher. You still always have a chance. Definitely trust your deck. I definitely needed to get those generators off. It's never guaranteed for me, but luckily I was able to thin my deck out before I was able to do that. So definitely trust in your deck and hope it takes you far.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that being said, I want to thank everyone for listening out there to the RGB and the TCG community. Shout out to Cascade Games and shout out to The Pocket for having these 2 wonderful gentlemen represent their shops, represent the RGB, and represent Texas pretty much for making day 2. It's not easy to make a day 2 at IC because, like I said, there's thousands of players. And again, you might see these 2 gentlemen at local league challenges or league cups in the RGB. Say hello, and if you have any questions, they'll gladly take them. And who knows, you might learn something from it, or you might have to play them too, so. But with that being said, thank you so much, everyone. Tune in next time for our next episode. With that being said, this is KG signing off. Peace.